On today's episode of Homeworthy, one of our favorite hosts, interior decorator Alex Papachristidis, takes us to his good friend David Monn's fabulous New York City apartment. For over 2 decades, David has planned a variety of prominent events, from intimate private parties and lavish weddings to presidential state dinners. Alex and David have been friends for more than 20 years and share a mutual affection for design and dogs. And to boot, they are both authors of beautiful coffee table books. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. By clicking the join button below, you not only support the production of these videos, you also gain access to exclusive content just for members. And today, you'll be able to see an extended and in-depth conversation with Alex and David that you won't want to miss. So join today to see more of the homes you love.
Darling.
Hello there. Welcome.
Oh, so happy to see you.
Hey, Coop.
Hey,
Winston. Say hi to Winston.
Hi, boys. Hi. Hi, Gwen. Hi.
Let him roll. There we go.
Oh my God, everything looks so beautiful.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Alex Papachristidis, and this is my amazing and talented friend David Monn and his beautiful dog, Winston. Welcome to Homeworthy, and here we are in David's incredibly stylish apartment. So David and I are amazing friends. David,
we are.
So how long have we been friends?
Oh my, do we have to tell that?
Yes, of course we don't mind telling
Over
people.
20 years.
Over 20 years. There's something that feels almost garden-like about the apartment. I feel like I'm almost at the Getty Villa or something, with the wonderful columns and the plants growing everywhere, and sort of that
living things
that sculpted
is so important, because it is we are part of this energy of living material, and it's not just sort of decorative. I mean, I travel a lot, so I'm not here as much as I would like. So having I love, contrary to, I don't love masses of flowers. I think flowers are
I still like flowers.
Yes, but and it's very expensive, and so but plants are.
Well, I'm the same way. I mean, we have more plants in our house than we have flowers, because also, you're not worrying about constantly changing the water.
And they're house plants, by the way. They're not fancy plants. I mean, these are, I love ivies.
They're
I love
too. Ferns,
simple.
ivies, orchids do so well.
Yeah.
They're so, but it's so lovely, and it feels just beautiful and warm and inviting and cozy and everything that it should be.
And
well, you're a little bit of, shall we say, a jack of all trades.
Well,
that you have, everything you do with style and taste.
Well, that's very
but
sweet.
But
I
I'm not
love
sweet.
to do
I'm telling you the truth, because and just so you know, I wouldn't do a party without David Monn. I really wouldn't, because and we have the best time working together.
I mean, probably better than any.
I
Actually,
mean,
Alex,
we can say 4 words to each other.
Yeah.
We say 4 words to each other. We have 6 conversations, and then it's all created, and we both are happy as clams,
And
right?
It's all because it's all from the same kind of core of aesthetic things we think about and we love.
So, oh my God, your entrance foyer is so stylish, David. I love it. It's so chic.
Well, I didn't want to. I come in, it's the elevators open up. There's only 11 of us in the building, and I wanted it to be. I didn't want you to come right in the loft. I wanted to create a little bit of a moment. But Alex, do you remember?
Yes, that beautiful column.
The
Eve Kaplan that you bought at auction, right?
And it was really you who introduced me first to her. You called and said that I had to buy something at this auction because you were a part of this charity. But I love her work, and moreover, I'd love to have.
She's so talented.
But she's extraordinary.
It's Eve Kaplan, and she's represented by Gerald Bland, who's really one of the best antique dealers left in the city, and he has some beautiful artisans who make beautiful things, and it's just. And I love the way you put it, on an antique table and over a wonderful, an English
what's
gilt
so
mirror.
beautiful about her work, and you
it's
have so
contemporary.
much of her things, is that they are this beautiful mix of of tradition and contemporary in a medium that's very unexpected.
Well, you know, she was an 18th century furniture restorer.
Which totally makes sense
and
to her
that's
work.
why, and that's what I love about her. I love that concept sort of something that's modern, but with such a strong classical interest and that, you know, this is totally a classical thing, but done in a modern way, and I love that about it. It makes it timeless.
Actually, you'll love this.
Oh, yes?
You may not know, but you do know this artist.
You know, I don't. It's so beautiful. It's little strawberries. It's Fraise du Bois.
It's Louis Kahn.
Is it? I've never seen something.
And I think in the same form of Yves' work. I mean, Louis, Louis was, in France, you must be, to be considered a master artist, you must be a painter, a sculptor, and a cabinet maker.
Well, he makes beautiful furniture too. I love his furniture.
Which was the last of his, which is how I actually met him.
I just bought the most beautiful console for a client from Liz O'Brien that is just so incredible. It's
the marquetry.
Yeah, no, it is a plain wood top, but the bronze and just the way that it's of the Giacometti quality. I think I
think it is.
Yeah.
This is a piece that was a part of a series that was very whimsical to him. But I think his part is that it's the history, it's the classic. There's a series of things that he did from Versailles, and this was.
There's always a reference to almost a Versailles tub of sorts, right?
Yeah, there's always
the kids are having so much fun.
Hi, boys.
Oh, look at how chic your coat closet is. I love that.
My hats, but actually, Alex, I always give credit to you for the umbrellas because coming into your home, you always have gorgeous umbrellas should that anyone need it if it rains when they're there. And when I did this apartment and I was working and finishing my coat closet, I cared that it be the same. So that is actually homage to you all the time.
I love you, please. Well, let me tell you something. My life's full of homages to you too. And tell us about her. She's so beautiful, David.
Well, Roman terracotta.
Beautiful.
What she really sort of can't see, it's a part of it's missing, but she was some maritime building because she has an anchor here, so she was part of a sea.
Beautiful, and the draping. And again, I love sort of the modern simplicity with the juxtaposition of something so beautiful and classical.
And then these are really old columns. These are Swedish, actually.
Beautiful.
Pedestals that I
beautiful.
met or that I found in Paris. These, Alex,
beautiful.
many years ago.
Chinese horses, and I love the scale. I've never seen one in this.
Well, this is
so big.
This is actually so. Most people have that you would see are from the Tang Dynasty, which are what the two behind are. These were burial figures. They were put into the tombs of wealthy people.
For your afterlife, right?
Exactly.
So that like you were taking.
That's right.
So that in the afterlife,
the horse would be there to take you out.
Right.
And so this is Han. Actually, this is even earlier. And the reason they're larger was the scale of the terracotta. The craftsmanship. This is 300 years earlier than Tang, and they hadn't quite perfected the art.
These are a little bit more refined and delicate.
Because as time went on,
the scale of this is so beautiful. And I love this. This is the little office.
Yes, this is the. I have two sort of work areas that I have, one here in the front and one in the back. But again, it's just light.
Divine.
Light.
Divine. Well, it's so interesting the way you've used the space. Oh, David, there's definitely a point of view here. So could you sort of describe the point of view? And I mean, I could describe it for you, but I'm going to let you do it since it's your apartment. And then also the other thing I want to ask you is, where did you, it's so hard to shop nowadays, and when you did this apartment. So where did you find so many of these beautiful things?
Well, the great question. So I am, from my own work when we're working together, I'm a monochromatic sort of thinker. That's actually probably one of the things, Alex, I have loved the most about you and admired and in awe of, because you have an unbelievable sense of color. And you are able to put color together that absolutely would petrify me.
Who I really feel like was my mentor, really. the person who I always look to for color, Mario.
Oh, Mario.
And the way he mixed prints,
Yeah.
Mario Botta, the way he mixed colors and prints, to me was always, you know, I just watched him and learned so much from him. I never worked for him, but he was a friend, and we were lucky enough to do show houses together, and I always paid such attention to the way he mixed print and color, and I just thought it was so incredible.
Well, you do it in a way that, as I said, even, you know, and in my work, I don't find it. I find, you know.
That's not true. You've done beautiful, colorful parties for me.
For you, I have, but no one else.
Is that true?
No one else out there. You look through the pages of my book and you won't see it, because and I'll tell you seriously in that regard, because it is you. You couldn't have a party that isn't that and have you in it.
But I mean, I adore white.
Yeah.
You know, I adore cream. I think it's beautiful. I mean, I think it's so soothing and and also the thing that's so interesting about the apartment, David, is because of the lack of color.
Yeah.
The objects
Well, that
and
was the intention.
shapes and the things become so important.
That was absolutely the intention.
So describe, tell us.
So I thought the only thing that I really...
Because it's more than just no color here, David. It's much
it is,
more than that.
There is a color. What I set off with, I personally have never liked floors and furniture that do not match each other.
I understand.
And so I knew that I wanted, I became obsessed with the Northern Light in Sweden, and I knew that was very important for me for, in fact, these floors have come from Sweden. These are...
They're such a beautiful color. They're so beautiful.
They're white, Danish white, which is very different than American white oak. And so this reflection that comes from it, and from that then it led everything else. It was wherever else there was wood, whether it was a bookcase or a mantle or the furniture. I mean, the furniture, much of this furniture I found in, I used to, it's harder now today, but I would shop in the flea market in Paris, and I bought things for years that was just in storage because I would buy things that I would love. And you just know, I learned a long time ago on a trip that I took many years ago with Caroline Rome, who was a great friend, and Bill Blass, that when you see something, you must seize it because it doesn't come back.
Carpe diem, right?
Yeah,
Seize the moment.
You must. And I mean, look, that's a luxury if you can, but I did over time. And so that palette of whether it was in a textile, I wanted linen, I didn't want it to be fancy furniture or fancy things, you know. I had a lot of things because I thought the things would be the definition of me. And life changed and I started over. And I made a commitment to myself with this space, because this space was, for the first time, something that I was mine entirely. And I didn't want anything in here, not one single thing, as small as it would be or as big as it would be, that didn't have a meaning and a purpose of why I bought it. And there is a story to absolutely every single little thing that is here, because
I understand
they are things that bring me joy.
And also it's your memories of your life, right?
All of it.
It's like, isn't this a little bit, I feel that way about our home. It's sort of a tableau to who we are and what we've collected and,
well, your home
our
is
trips.
so extraordinary.
Well, so is yours, David.
Well,
so is yours.
well.
Please. And it also, but don't you love that you can sometimes look at a thing and it brings back a whole story in your head?
Entirely.
Right?
This part of the apartment for me is just sort of the gallery where people come in the beginning, and then we move on along the way. I'm often asked, where did you gather all these things? And they've been either treasures that were things that I found. I mean, this you will appreciate this. This was the inkwell on Saul's desk.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Gayford
That's
wanted me to have this
amazing.
after his passing. And this, by the way, is a very lovely sculpture that Saul had bought for Gayford at one point.
That's sweet.
But
That's so nice.
good memories. So anyhow, from here, I've broken the apartment up into really three spaces. One is the first sort of sitting area, And then we go on to a dining area, and then after dinner to what I call the music room.
And I love
And-
the way, you know, we're in a loft, but this feels so cozy and just so...
Well, I'm
it's just-
symmetrical,
it's
you
so
know.
beautiful.
That I think we share that together. We have this sort of love of you know, of order and the French. Everything's in pairs.
Right.
I broke the room up that there was a front and back that's identical, centered around the fireplace, and then behind it the book units I've collected over the years.
So I love this seating area. It's just so beautiful and so luxurious. And what's the piece over the fireplace?
So this is a French artist. There's a pair that flank each of the fireplaces. This is the female. The male is in the back of the apartment, which you'll obviously figure that out why. And he you know, he blows the glass, and then he glazes them with mercuries and golds, and I just loved his work. Many people think it's Anish Kapoor, but it's not.
Well, it totally
Yeah,
has that vibe,
yeah.
but it's in glass and Anish Kapoor's in bronze.
It is. It's
And the
glass.
bust is wonderful. What's he?
I'm sorry, I'm going to draw a blank on his, but it's the two heads. You know, is Hercules and Apollo, I believe, are the two.
Anyway, it's
that are
beautiful.
together,
And is
but
it
yeah.
marble?
Yeah, it's stone. This is actually really lovely. There's a pair. It's an artist by the name of Michael Mark, and Michael Mark is a young gentleman. He's probably now in his 40s. He won the Rembrandt Award of work, and what's really incredible is that he works these two pieces. And I'll show you the one in the back of the apartment. This piece is neon orange. Neon orange underneath.
Beautiful.
And Rembrandt's technique of painting these extremely bright colors underneath, and then the light shines through, and his work is called The Light Within.
So beautiful.
But he paints with his hands. He doesn't paint with brushes, so.
And I love the little
Yes.
chinoiserie tea table.
Well, this is actually how I met Louis Kahn, by the woman by Nicole Bruget in Paris, who has probably the oldest atelier for lacquer in probably in the world. And I found this beautiful panel of hers. It's from it's actually Japanese.
It's so
from
pretty.
a Japanese traveling chest. And then she made the base and legs for me.
Tell us, the bookcases are so beautiful. Did you find these?
No,
Or did you buy these?
I had them made.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I had them made. I took them from an old.
And I love the way you've done this with the pull-out shelves to be able to
Yeah.
put books down and the drawers, and
Yeah,
they're so practical.
They pull out at times. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Oh, there
they're
you go.
beautiful.
But yeah, and you know, Alex, again, I took them from an old English model, and I had them made and done in the same color wood as the floor. So again, it would just sort of, you know, disappear.
Your beautiful monochromaticness, which I love. So beautiful. He's just really the most talented and creative, and the thing that I love about you is, and every time I've done an event with you, it's like the way I decorate for people. It's what I want, but in a way that I couldn't do on my own. As you know, you have dreams in your head, and I think that's the thing about you, David. You make people's dreams come true. You know, what's that crazy, that commercial for we make people's dreams come true? It's like,
that's funny.
But that's what you do.
Yeah, I probably also, Alex, because I always looked at this from a totality, never from an insular item. And you know, you who know design so well that there is a story behind what you're doing. You know, it's not just the layer on the top that you see. It is the underpinning of all of it. If it isn't there, it makes nothing happen, quite frankly.
Well, that's again, the thing is your attention to detail, David, is so beautiful, and it's so sophisticated and interesting, and it just, you know, your parties feel like you're in somebody's house almost, or,
Well, I would hope
or
so.
an environment that wasn't just created for one night,
Yeah.
and that's what I think is so incredible.
I thank you, Alex. I mean, we're in simpatico, so we're kind of, you know, preaching our own. You know,
I know,
we're our
but
choir
that's
masters.
nice.
But you know what I always.
But that's why we're
care
friends, isn't it?
about,
Isn't that that's why we're friends?
It is. You know, I care that when somebody walks into something that we've done, that they're, that there's a gasp that happens because they're seeing something, but I care that they never say first, it's a David Monn. David Monn did this, because it should say you first.
Right.
Who is the host?
Right.
What is the event? And then as they're in this, the complexity and the facets are so deep that they say, oh, this has to be David Monn because it's, because nobody else goes this far, right, in a way. And I do take, it's important to me that it never say me first, ever, because then it's been about my ego, not about client.
Well, it says you because it's so highly stylized and so beautifully done. And I just, I don't know. I go to a lot of parties and I've seen a lot of people do different things and, huge parties and weddings and events. And, Scott and I are lucky enough to be invited to so many beautiful parties. But there's nobody like you. I mean, there's just nobody like you. You just have a different, things look good. And I'm not saying other people don't do a good job and execute things well, but it's just, it never looks as stylish as when you do it. And I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. As they say, I wouldn't tell you if I didn't really think so.
And I know that's true, Alex. That's part of the thing that we share in common, is that we do tell the truth. Right. And we're each other's advocate and also each other's critic when we need to be. Alex, I think the thing that is important, I grew up very, very poor. One of 6 children in a 2-bedroom house.
Where?
In a small town in Pennsylvania,
right.
Called Fayetteville. It's very near Gettysburg, south and west, near the Amish area. So the world that I grew up in was never the world that I have come, to be in, and I'm very, very, very blessed.
We all are.
Yeah, and I never lose sight of that. I am still a farm boy and a country boy at heart. And what I tried to do with, you mentioned my book earlier, but in the very beginning, I wanted the book to be called Curiosity. It's called The Art of Celebrating, but the reason I wanted the book to be called Curiosity is because, I believe that you do not have to be creative to create. You must be curious.
Well, see, it's so funny. That's such an interesting thing. You bring up such an interesting point.
This area is really interesting. I mean, for me, this is it's where I dine, but the entire apartment was built. I built this apartment around this artist.
So incredible.
His name is Hiroyuki Matsumayo. And the story of him is really quite fascinating because many, many years ago, I went to the Armory Fair, and there was a piece of a painting that I saw, and it was this scale but turned vertically. And I walked up to it from a distance, and I was like, "What is this?" And it turns out, the woman says to me, "It's a photograph." And I happened to know the painting. I knew the painting had never been photographed before. It was a painting that was held privately, and had never been shown. And I said, "That's very fascinating because I happen to know this painting and it's never been photographed. How did you do this?" And she was like, "Oh my God, you have to wait here. You know about this. You have to find, I want to get the artist." So she brings the artist over to me, and he's this man who he was my age, but this was about 15 years ago, and does not speak English. And she said, "Let him explain to you." And so he explains and translates and brings me closer. And as I got up closer,
why are they so translucent? Why do I feel like there's like almost light coming from behind?
Because there is actually. And so he's fascinated. He's an extraordinary artist, but and his I would say he's probably somewhere on the Asperger's of the high ends of genius, and he was fascinated with a period of art from Impressionism into abstract art.
And the two artists,
they are.
It
Alex,
feels Turnerish.
That's it. They are. So he wanted to do an homage to the two men who are credited with abstract. Turner and Friedrich. The piece I saw was a Friedrich. And so I met his studio, and what he does is he says, come closer, and you see that his work is made up of thousands of photographs. So when you are looking here, you will see that these are
God,
people.
I can see people.
These are ships.
Oh my God.
There's a town. Over here is.
Oh, I never even noticed
down
that.
Down here is a village, and I mean you can see here. Look, there's a town. There's a town here.
Yes.
So, but when you're from the distant, it is the Turner. In fact, I will show you.
So is it the use of color that creates that?
No, it is each one of these, he will say probably has in the neighborhood of 30,000 images.
Wow.
What he does is his technique or his eye or his technique rather, he considers the pixel like a brush stroke of a feather or a hair of a brush. And so he goes out and he photographs and photographs. Like, what was the mind of Turner doing when he was seeing? So the photograph is collecting all of this. And then he collages them. They're not color corrected. They are not, they are images that he keeps layering and layering and layering. And then he puts them onto they're a film. And then he lights them from behind. And behind this is a whole myriad of little wee LED lights. The only place I have LED lights.
Well, but it's okay, you're allowed.
And some of them have little gels over them. Some of them have little pieces that you only let things shine through. And what's incredible, I built this apartment for him because when I met him, he was working on a series. And actually, it's fascinating, Alex. I'll show you because he allowed me to use it as the end pages in my book because this is really what the apartment was to be. And he, when Michelangelo had been imprisoned, the Medicis put him in prison for a period of time, and Michelangelo was drawing on these walls, and they discovered that years later these incredible drawings, and he became fascinated with them. And I built this whole wall for him to do a piece. I brought him here, and he said no.
Triptych.
He said no, I'm not going to do it. He felt this was too heavy for here, and he didn't feel that he could tell that story. So he said, I'm going to send you what I think you should have. And when he sent them, probably my most favorite artist of all time, which is not a hard thing, is Turner. I'm sure he brought it out for him because he likes to share his toys.
That's cute.
And I was a little apprehensive in the very beginning, quite frankly, because I didn't want anyone to think that I was putting faux Turners on my wall. And
but I didn't mean to say that
because they are.
There's a Turner quality to it, but it's not. It doesn't feel like a faux Turner because it's much more contemporary.
But what's so complex about them is the interesting part, and they're probably now my most favorite things that I own because they just are. They bring sort of happiness, I think.
What I also love, because we're in the center of the apartment where there are no windows.
Yeah.
And I love the way they're
yeah.
lit. So now all of a sudden we're bringing light back in it's almost as if you're looking through these incredible windows.
It's true.
Into these beautiful sort of seascape cloud scenes. And I love it. It's just beautiful. And the table, tell us about the table and chairs, David.
Well, the table is, again, one of those finds that I found in the flea market in Paris. It was from the Bank of France. It was, I think you would come in here, and these benches were with it, which was really incredible. I think you'd sit and write out your deposit slips or something like that. It was in horrible shape. It was, yellow oak, and so we cerused it. But what I really was gonna, I wanted to try was, I didn't want dining chairs. I didn't want the backs of a chair to be the thing that would stop you from coming. And yet it's something easily I didn't, want to have. I don't have storage, so I didn't have a place to put chairs that I'd bring in. So I thought, I'm just going to take the benches and see how it works with people at the benches, and it really is pretty incredible.
These are amazing too. So what are these?
Well, this is a young artist. His name is Sarab. He is Indian. He is so extraordinary. They're paper.
Well, these are just beautiful, though. I love them. And I love that you don't have to water them and you don't have to worry about them, right? And the scale of them.
Well, that was it. I always need scale in here. And again, that's, I'm not here that often. And so it's hard to put things here. Louis Kahn, by the way.
All
More
these beautiful Louis Kahn trees,
Louis
so
trees.
beautiful. And then real plants.
I love these.
Beautiful. What kind of flower is this, David?
It's a passion vine.
Wow.
And it's incredible because they just open up. I mean, they open up and they close in the sunlight. So we're at the right time of the day. They're kind of happy.
And I've been here in the evening when you light all the candles, and it's so magical and really, it's transporting. It's so beautiful, and the beautiful sculptures on the table that you've thrown in, and it's just lovely. What's this? This is so interesting.
Oh, this is actually it's an Italian artist, and she takes old textbooks and literature books, and this is called The Living Word. She's titled it, and they're just old. I don't even remember when you were a kid. Did you ever take the Sears catalog and fold it and make it a doorstop? It was like a camp project.
No.
Oh, you were too fancy for that. But
I don't know if I was too fancy for it. We just
you didn't need the Bergdorf catalog, not the Sears catalog. But
I don't know about that. But
it's all
what it
folded
reminds
pages.
me of, it reminds me of my mother's dictionary. We had a dictionary table in the library, and my mother would tell us to go look words up that we couldn't pronounce.
I love that.
And we had this huge unabridged dictionary on a dictionary table, and she would say, "You need to go look that word up."
I love that.
Because we didn't know what it
Good for
was.
her. I love that.
She's just beautiful, David. She's incredible.
Well, these are all they're from the turn of the century.
19th century, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
they were
beautiful.
taking
She's beautiful.
bisque and creating these
Love.
old famous sculptures.
Just beautiful. Everything's so pretty. And this is amazing.
Well, I love Lacan. Probably one of the most intricate copies or pieces of the Roman era. But and there's an amazing one of this that's in Houghton, and so when I found this, it reminded me of that beautiful sculpture.
Also, your use of scale is so wonderful, and I love the way you've used this beautiful screen that's got the glass in it to divide the two rooms.
So that was important. I wanted
because you're still getting the light from both ends. It creates intimacy.
That's what I really
But there's
wanted, Alex. I
no-
wanted to give the apartment some rooms that felt like rooms, and they would feel different. And so,
Well, maybe that's why I like this loft so much, being not a loft person.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I like it so much, because you have created these beautiful rooms.
And so after having dinner, some evenings, coming back to here to have coffee, I always think the best. I mean, I grew up simple, so we sat at a table until the end of the evening. But I loved when I came to New York was really that there was a table conversation, but then the real sort of good guts of an evening happened after dinner, and you would be sitting around having coffee, and you got to have a conversation with somebody else that you maybe didn't speak to earlier. So,
Well, I love that.
love that.
I love that too, and I also think it's so interesting to move, and I think it keeps the night sort of exciting.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
you and I both. We always say that. Don't make people sit at the table
No, and
too
people
long.
don't want to. People don't
give
want
them a
to.
nice cocktail hour, give them a wonderful
Yeah.
2-course dinner, and then take them
Cocktail,
another
45
place,
minutes.
and then give them another place for dessert. Am I a little on the long cocktail?
Cocktail, 45 minutes.
Am I a long cocktail person? I know.
You like a good cocktail.
I do, and everybody's
You do
late,
like
and I like to give
I
people
know.
time to get there.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I love the way you've used these wonderful, wonderful
Well,
rugs.
Alex, in the very beginning, I did not want rugs anywhere in the apartment, and then it kind of became a little bit, where I needed a little bit more of something here and there to be cozy. And I'll never forget. I remember watching Isaac Mizrahi on one of his shows earlier on, and it was in his apartment, and his dog had pooed on the carpet. And
It looks like the boys have had a little
fun
fun here.
He said, it's not a proper home until you have a poo-poo stain on your carpet somewhere. So anyhow, sadly, Winston has made.
But you can wash
himself-
these.
No, you cannot. No. It's
What?
hard. No. Yeah.
No?
They're a little hard. They're real
Yeah,
fur. so-
lambskin. You can wash these, David.
Well, I've not been able to figure that out. So
I think
would
you can put them in the
love-
washer.
No.
Yes, David. I
Even
swear to.
wetting them, they get all curly and they turn.
Oh, you can't then blow dry them.
It's not a wash and set.
And this is your second fireplace, so we have mirror image in your second bookcase, right?
Yes, exactly. And then so here you can see this is the
Male
male
version, totally.
To the.
So are they sold as a pair or individually?
No, he made them for me. I wanted them to
Just
be
beautiful.
Made a pair, and I didn't want the same. I wanted the same. And these are the Louis Kahn tables, so you can
yes.
see his very His very modern bronze base with the
Well, his bronze work, I think, is
really beautiful.
his bronze work is so beautiful. So, again, David, your color palette. It's so sort of quiet and beautiful. What inspired you?
Well, Alex, as I have said before, I'm light very sensitive and important to me, and it really began with the floor. And once I had the floor, the color of the floor to me then led everything else. The walls. So often you go into a loft and they feel sterile because they've used
This does not feel sterile.
white that's too white. In fact, Benjamin Moore made this color for me. It's called pale oak. It's now actually one of their most successful colors.
Oh, I'm going to use it. I love it. You didn't tell me about that.
Yes, it is.
Pale oak.
Pale oak.
Oh, it's so pretty.
And I have to say the other color is the accent color, which was from my friend Gayfrid for years. She had a color that she loved because it really looks like plaster, called Cloud White.
Oh, I use that.
And it's a plaster.
Cloud White.
I think
it's
like
925.
It is.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's my white. Yeah.
That's the two
Yeah,
colors.
yeah,
And then
I love that.
and honestly, then the next thing that kind of happened was I've always I by no means am I a pianist, but having a piano is always very important to me. I am a novice at it, but this was a gift to the piano. This actually is a very special piano.
It's beautiful.
It is,
That's a grand. That's not a baby grand. That's a grand.
It's a concert. It's a D, and it belonged to Horowitz.
Beautiful.
And so then really started the next color for me, because it's still not a color, but in fact I think it is a color, was black. And I didn't want the piano to be, I'm not a concert pianist. I have many friends that are, and you've come and people have performed. But I didn't want it to be that I was showing off. So I felt the only way that I could then make the piano
balance it with the lacquer and the chinoiserie.
Then I would collect black things.
But you know what else? You know what else? Your love of bronze.
I love bronze. So
the bronzes and the black work so well together.
Yeah.
And yes, your paintings all have sort of a little bit of color to them, but they also have something
dark.
There's always black in them as well.
And by the way, it just always seems to work out that way. So it's not that it's intended.
You know what? If you have a focus, and I always say to clients, it's so important to keep a focus in what you're collecting and to have some kind of thought process.
Yeah.
And this is such a clear, wonderful thought process. I mean, we have everything from Chinese to contemporary, from 18th to 19th to 20th century things. Yeah. And you're spanning such an enormous time period. But in actuality, there's so much continuity and harmony. And I think that's what's so important. And really, that's what good decorating is about. It's about that there's a connection between all of these objects. Mm-hmm. And often it's because the person who is collecting is sophisticated and loves the thing so much that they make it all come together and work. Well, and I think that's so successful here.
Alex, I've learned from you, because I did something that I would have never done. I don't think I've ever even shared this with you, because you would often, and you would take something and then, I'll just as an example, that amazing chinoiserie table that is in Samantha's living room, and you went in and you repainted over it because the color of their story was in there, but it seems as though it was, from the century it was created. And but I remember years ago you talking about just doing those sorts of things and that it didn't destroy something. And honestly, I had these hall chairs that I love, these English hall chairs.
They're beautiful.
I have a bigger collection of them, but there was no way. I didn't want brown furniture in here. I had a lot of brown furniture in my past. I have an amazing collection of Regency things, but none of that worked here anymore. And I painted them.
And they look gorgeous.
And so, that's what I did. And it really was your giving me that freedom to say that, you didn't even really know you ever did that, but honestly, I never told you that. But that's a big step out for me.
But you know what? It's about, there's so many beautiful things that somehow are antiques and vintage and that don't feel relevant.
Yeah.
These chairs in white feel so much more.
I think they're better than they were before.
Well, I love them in brown in the right context.
Yeah.
But most people don't understand brown furniture. But, I love to chalky white things, and I love the idea of chalky whiting things. And it wasn't my idea to chalky white things. Chalky whiting really started in the 18th century when they would, take those beautiful mirrors and
Exactly.
they would paint them. And then, Elsa de Wolf was leading people out of that Victorian
William Kent,
decorating,
when you think of
and she
William
wanted
Kent.
to paint things white and refresh America and get rid of all that heavy Victorianism. So she did so much painted furniture. But again, if it's the difference between making something that's beautiful, relevant, and not using it, then one should paint it and use it rather than it becomes firewood and nobody wants it.
It's funny because, and what gave me that, I had a pair of chairs that they were Irish, and the provenance of them was blah, 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 blah. And, it's the old thing, it's priceless when you want to buy it and worthless when you want to sell it, right? So I bought these extraordinary, very priceless chairs when I bought them. And when I was, when I was moving and doing this, I wanted to sell them back. I bought them from one of the big auction houses. And of course, they were like, oh, well, that's not in vogue anymore. And that, these priceless things now were basically good firewood if you didn't have enough. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm either going to never use them or throw, they're going to sit around, or I paint them white and they'll have some value to me. And
totally.
When I
so
occasionally
agree with you.
And that's really where this kind of fell in.
And look, I've done it 100 times. I've done it once. I've done it 100 times where I've painted furniture. And again, if you love it and you're going to use it, paint it rather than get rid of it and throw it away, because the value, it's not so relevant anymore in this brown antiques.
I think that's a very true thing.
And also sometimes, sometimes I'll have something from a client that has sentimental value. And I'll look at it and say, well, it's a good shape, but the color of that orange wood is just like, what am I going to do with that? And I'll say to the client, I've got a wonderful idea. I understand it's sentimental, and we'll paint it. And so then we take that piece of furniture and paint it. Either we do something decorative on it, or so.
And you give it a whole life.
You always have to be open-minded. And then here's this trunk that his grandfather made for his father that happens to be a chic shape, but just wasn't going to work in the decoration. And now we've decorated it and painted and made it this magical trunk that sits under a beautiful console table. And the memory is there.
It's a treasure now.
And now it's a treasure, and it's just given a facelift. So you gave these beautiful chairs a facelift and made them relevant. And well, that makes me happy. And I love, what I always say again, antiques are green, and it's much better to take something old and repaint it than buy something that's made in China, that's not the same quality level, and that's just not as good. These chairs look at the carving. They're so beautiful. That makes me happy. Well, that's a nice story. I love that. And so now, I love this little area here too.
Well, this is, it's hard when there's just myself or one of the, having dinner for two here. Sitting at the table is not so easy. So this is an area where I used to just sit and have dinner, by myself with a friend.
So tell us about this beautiful table, and I love the way the stone is cut. And again, we're bringing back the black furniture into the room.
Yeah, and it's funny. This, this was from Anne Slater.
Oh, she was the one with wonderful blue glasses, the socialite with the divine blue. The gray hair and the blue glasses, she was so divine.
Beyond chic.
And I think she lived on Fifth Avenue, a beautiful apartment. Yeah, she had great style.
This sat in her bedside. So it was a fun little
beautiful. I love it.
Piece.
I love it.
And I loved, actually, what I loved mostly was the
stone.
The stone and how it was carved.
It looks like Janssen. It could be.
It could be. The feet possibly. Simple.
It's so pretty.
Yeah.
So pretty.
And this, one of my favorite, I used to have a little apartment in Venice, and this was a real sweet little chair that I picked up from the gondola chair.
Right. So
years and years ago.
Beautiful. Yeah. And you've done everything all in the neutral colors, so it's about the shapes of things.
And and durable. This is ultra suede. It's not it's not. The kids get up and on it, and there you go.
Beautiful.
Wash
and wipe. And what about the beautiful painting?
Oh, well, this actually, this is a piece that it's Morrow, Anthony Morrow, who was a protege of Holbein. And this is a new acquisition of mine.
Beautiful.
And I'm very happy.
And I love the way you've done them on the stands like that. I love these stands.
Well, I did, Alex, because, you know, these, though they seem to be walls, they're actually cabinets behind here.
Oh,
so,
storage.
You know,
We
so
love storage.
I have to get in them. There's yes, storage, but and intentionally I didn't have a lot of wall space. So
Well, I use these all the time. I love these stands.
I do
and
too.
I also think they bring dimension into the room, and they also make the rooms not feel so flat.
I like that.
You know,
Well, thank
I
you.
love that, and
I-
it's sculptural.
I,
it turns a painting almost into a sculpture.
object.
Yeah, and I love that. Love it. So beautiful, really. Ah, and I love the way you did this, Dave. Tell us about the bedroom.
Well, again, you know, as I said, Alex,
how did you come up with this?
I'm claustrophobic, so I wanted, you know, I wanted to have light in the bedroom, and I didn't want to close off the walls. So I created these glass walls, the glass doors that actually do close for privacy. And then there's a series of shades that come down at night as well, so that can make this completely private. And you know, I have never ever shied from mirror. I think mirror is the most powerful tool.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I mean, the truth is, I think bad mirror that we've seen over time is because it's not low iron. You know, low iron glass it doesn't turn that greenish cast and stay. But you know, I wanted to give the illusion that the apartment continued on in a way that, you know, I didn't. This is the smallest space of the whole apartment.
Yeah, but it feels so open, and it feels beautiful. And again, I think that mirror is such a wonderful tool to reflect light.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, I don't ever close these windows, even though we're in the back of the building. It's not so.
I don't sleep
easy.
with the blinds closed either. I find it depressing.
I
a little
can't.
bit.
Yeah,
I like to wake up to the light. I think it's cheery and happy.
Even at night. It's,
Yeah.
In fact, it was very funny. There's a building across the way that this is an office building that they were doing construction in, and all of the people in the building here, they had these glaring lights, and it took us about a year to finally get the building to turn their work lights off at night because it was shining in. I think most of the other apartments, their kids' bedrooms are in these lines. And it was very funny. The other evening, I was lying in bed, and the lights. I thought, oh no, it's back on, and it was the moon. It was the moon the other evening, and it was just amazing. So
back to the beautiful. Yeah. I love your bedside tables.
There's a great little cabinet maker upstate named John Curry. I don't know if you've ever known him or used him, who copied them. He took the table in the front and took the leg and shape and just made me a simple.
It's like a little bit of a goat's foot, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
beautiful, very pretty.
Very simple.
So beautiful, really lovely.
Wedgwood and Sammy's foot.
Oh, I have one of those of Teddy.
Yeah.
I have Teddy's little paw print too. What was the name of the bear? You sent me there, right?
Yes.
It's a crematorium for dogs,
Clouds.
and they give Clouds,
Yeah.
and we drove him up there, and they gave us that beautiful little here. Let me show you. Oh my God, it's so special. Beautiful little paw print.
That is
of Sammy. He was so sweet. I have the same of Ted.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I've wanted to have it made in bronze, but I'm afraid they would destroy
crack it.
so that I don't ever leave it. I don't ever touch it. So, and of course, you know, it has to have a television somewhere in the house, but I have a television here. But that's
and also you hardly see it.
Yeah. And I
now,
never turn it on actually.
I know. And now, the dressing room.
Oh, are we gonna take that? Are we gonna take that leap?
Yes.
Oh God! Let everybody know how crazy I really am.
Please.
Well,
beautiful.
As you know, Alex, you know, I like order and I like things. You know, I'm a creature of habit. I stick to a couple things. Once I've liked them, then they become just the only thing.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, and so I'm basically a white shirt guy. So the white shirts start.
Oh, another office too.
Yeah. Well, this is where I work mostly, and minus my
Scott feels the same way you do about the white shirts.
Well, they're all very different, by the way. They're
Yeah,
not
Scott
the
likes
same.
white shirts
They're
too.
not the same.
I like a checked shirt. I don't know why.
I have a couple that I maybe I buy them thinking I'm going to wear them, and I have never worn them.
And you know what? But you know what?
They stay.
But you know what? If you think you're going to wear something, you usually don't. That's sort of
entirely.
what I've learned. Like, every time I buy a jacket that's not blue, I wear it a tiny bit.
And
but
then,
now, when I travel with like 5 blue jackets, just different shapes, different things.
That's it.
Because I'm always comfortable in a navy blue jacket.
I have
this
this
is
that
so
I
beautiful.
rarely wear. I wore for you today.
Well, I'm so proud of you because you look so chic. Always.
But let me show
You're
you the
always
best
so
part.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Years ago, a very, very stylish man said to me, pick the thing that you want people to know of you about. And I happen to love pocket squares. And so over the years, I've collected hundreds and hundreds of pocket squares. And when I was building this, prior I had them in boxes, I had them in this and that. And when I did this closet, I said to Alan, there is only one thing that I care most about, and that I want drawers for my pocket squares.
Oh, show us.
Here is the beginning of my pocket squares.
Oh my God, so pretty.
Hold on.
Wow. Oh my God. It's like a candy store.
And then they move into cottons.
Uh-huh.
Then you move into solids. So,
So beautiful. Cooper, you like those pocket squares?
what do you think, Coop?
Huh? Very chic, DM. Uh-huh.
A little grand in some form, but
No, beautiful.
yeah.
And personal. I love a personal story that you love pocket squares, and that's one of the things you collected, and that was an important thing when you got to do your apartment.
Probably the most.
That's so, and I think it brings up such a good point. Again, an apartment, a home, should always be unique and personal.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
agree.
what makes it special and sets it apart from other people's
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah.
Those personal touches that are you.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I also love hearing that you love pocket squares. I always know you have a beautiful pocket square, but I didn't know you had a
Well,
whole
it's very funny
collection
too,
of
and
that.
you get after a while, you get into only the few things that you.
Well, of
end
course,
up
we all
having.
become creatures of habit.
So.
And the bathrooms?
Well, it'd be hard to capture this, but the bathroom is.
It's beautiful.
I wanted these. The bathroom really started off with these sinks, Alex, which are very unique. And unfortunately, they do not make them any longer, and so therefore, hence the problem. But there is no plumbing that's visible.
Wow.
So they're hanging. The gooseneck is behind. It was a patented thing that the company. I discovered them in Italy.
It's just beautiful.
But they're they're a little bit of a maintenance issue. But nonetheless, what I loved about them was the simplicity. You didn't see any.
And I love how contemporary the bathroom is. It almost feels like Philippe Starkish.
I wanted separate water closets on both sides, and I'm a hopeful romantic, but I thought this could one day be an apartment for two.
Yeah, what do you mean a hopeful romantic? It'll happen. Please, you have to be romantic.
Two showers and then separate sinks and water
great.
closets. Yeah, what was really incredible.
And again, it feels a little open, David, because the shower you can walk through is so nice.
And I didn't want it to be, I didn't want it to be closed again. And the use of the mirror, I think I had a client many years ago, and she was an artist, which was incredible. And she had no choice about where her wedding was going to be. It was going to be at the Pierre. And she called me and she said, I'm okay to have it at the Pierre. She said, I know I have to. She said, but the only thing, David, is I don't like that gray and I don't like those chandeliers. Well, that's what the Pierre was about.
That gray room with those
and
chandeliers.
She's an artist. And I thought about it for a while and I called her back up and I said, I would like to propose to you. I have a theory that when you don't want to see something, do more of it. Because the more you do, the less you will see. It will become the neutral. I said, so not only are we going to keep the gray, we're going to make everything gray. The tablecloths, the chairs, the carpeting, everything will be gray. And we're going to take the chandeliers and we're going to add these incredible trees that will be lights like the chandeliers through the chandeliers. And the chandeliers will be like the magic fireflies. And she got it, and it was incredible. And I said, the only other thing I hope you will agree is no flowers. So I had a bride that didn't like gray, didn't like the chandeliers, and ended up with all gray, more of the chandeliers, and no flowers.
But it was beautiful.
And it was the most extraordinary one. And she was beyond thrilled because she understood the sense of it. So, with mirror, I always think of mirror in the same way. When you put more of it, it's less. It doesn't become more, it becomes less.
And again, it brings light.
Yeah.
So there's an incredible photograph of Tina Chow and Paloma Picasso getting ready. And they're in this sort of mirrored room, and this room reminds me of it. It's something from the 70s, and I love that this feels like sort of a wonderful moment from the 70s.
Well, do you remember I remember this photograph of a bathroom that Valerian Raybar did.
Oh.
That bathroom.
The best.
That bathroom was...
The steel one that he
Yes.
did, was it the steel
With
one?
mirror.
So that was done for Sal Schlumberger when she was married and lived in that beautiful, beautiful house in Paris. I love that.
it was just like...
the steel, with the floating tub that was made out of stainless steel.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm obsessed with that bathroom.
Yeah.
But this feels more modern than that, and I love it, and it feels just so chic. I think
Heated floors. He loves...
and I think we've tired them out, the two of them.
I love the heated floors.
It's too much of a party. Oh my God. Okay, beautiful. So lovely, David.
Wow. So a powder room for me, I've always found it should be the jewel of the apartment. It's sort of that little hidden treasure that you discover in your own little private way when you're in someone's home. And I wanted that really to be the same here. And I found this very, very beautiful chest at Mallet in London, and I had it then re-outfitted, which I probably destroyed it in some form, but I just loved how simple it was, and I had this black stone top made. I found this octagonal mirror, and I wanted the shape to be a uniquely different shape, and so then I mirrored the same octagonal cut into the stone. But the best part, Alex, we share this passion of love of Louis Kahn, and this is probably one of Louis Kahn's greatest pieces. It's his called Venus, and it really shouldn't probably be in one's powder room, but I thought this was where she was most special, and I love her here. But the best part about the bathroom that I God is in every detail. I needed a black toilet and black toilet paper, because if there was white toilet paper in here, it would absolutely be unsightly. So, every little detail does kind of count, and it's always kind of a funny thing. People are like, where did you find it?
David, these are incredible. Tell us
Well,
about
earlier,
these.
Alex and I was talking about the horses up front.
Mm-hmm.
So when in these tombs, they many of these tombs, they were wealthy men, and they were the merchants that traveled the Silk Road.
So it was the concept sort of like of the Egyptians, the way they buried themselves.
Exactly, yes,
with,
exactly.
with furniture and
Yeah.
objects and things for
So
the
richest,
afterlife.
The richest would have their own likeness in here because it was a bit of their narcissism of sorts. And this would have been the man who was in the tomb. And what was incredible about these, I mean, when I purchased these, the gentleman who used to help to take care of them was the curator at the Met. And he said, even the Met does not have an example as fine as this particular one is, and they've been x-rayed, and this one has never been broken in any way, as I say, on knock on wood. But and many of them all have been over time. But what tells you who they were and how rich they were by the things that were on, it's called a rake, and this happens to be a separate piece. So this particular man wanted this to be incredibly complex because it could show how much he could have afforded to have done. And so the seat that he's sitting on is separate, and then he himself is riding on, but you can see he's on these carpets. He has oils, which were very, very, very expensive.
Chinese.
Yes.
But he's on a camel.
Yes, because they traveled the Silk Road on camels.
Oh, okay. It was for the Silk Road.
Yes.
That's
These were merchants. That's how they were. That's
how
they
okay,
had
because they
obtained
didn't
their
have
wealth.
camels in China, right? These were camels. Camels are indigenous to Africa and India, aren't
Well,
they?
but they would have made their way through.
Okay.
That's how they would have traveled to carry their goods. And
have you ever been on a
missing,
camel?
I have.
I hated it. I went to Egypt.
It's a pretty easy ride.
I didn't like that at all. Everybody got off of the camel. I was like, get me off this thing.
Well, they smell and they spit.
They spit. They're not friendly, and they're
not.
dirty animals.
Yeah, they're not. They're not so good. But they would have had what he would have
He
had.
doesn't look particularly friendly.
He would have had a ring in his nose, and then they would have had leather straps, which obviously over the time.
So like a harness.
Yeah. But
A bit, maybe, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful, though.
So-
And again, I love the way you've made these beautiful pedestals that disappear.
Yeah. Again. So come on in the kitchen.
So show us the kitchen. See the kitchen now.
Come
The
on.
apartment's so beautiful.
I'll show you the kitchen. You know, Alex, when I did the kitchen, you know, I cook a lot, and I love to entertain, but I wanted a kitchen that was also, when it wasn't being used, I wanted it to be architecturally as pretty as the rest of the apartment. And
Well, it is. You did it.
well, thank you. I wanted no hardware. I wanted it to be very modern. And so I started off, and you know, also I wanted the cabinetry. You know, cabinetry gets used hard, and I wanted something that was going to be durable and yet also not have a lot of detail.
So what's it made of?
It's all Corian. It is solid. Every cabinet is solid Corian.
So interesting. Beautiful.
And I loved it because you can also, you want to touch it. You know, it has this feeling. So the countertops are Corian. Sinks inside were made as well. I separated this kitchen. You know, for many years I had a partner who was Orthodox. I actually kept a kosher home, and so I took that in theory and created this kitchen so that it could, in fact, actually be a kosher home should it need be. There's refrigerators. Refrigerators are all here.
Show us the refrigerator.
So the refrigerators are, you know, here, left and right throughout.
Wonderful.
With, you know, with the freezer
drawers, right?
Freezer drawers below. I didn't want to see, you know, I didn't want to see the microwaves. I didn't want to see toasters. So all of these things are in concealed things that just come out when you should need them. And then, but the beautiful part of this for me was I wanted a range that was as close to industrial capacity as could be. And many use Wolf or they use Viking.
This is beautiful.
This is called Ilvi, and this is it's Italian. It is the highest because of the system. If you can see that it's really quite interesting because there are a group of jets that are inside, and then through a center ring that it allows the heat to become even hotter than typically what could be in.
What's the name of the brand again?
Ilvi. I-L-V-E.
Italian.
And
Beautiful.
so I have a grill, 6 full burners. This, which I really, really love,
Well, that's amazing. What's
it's for
that?
poaching and for deglazing. So when you have a large roaster and you've taken out whether it's your roast or chickens, and you want to deglaze to get a beautiful jus, this lets it heat evenly.
Wonderful. So beautiful.
And it's also, I think, beautiful.
Physically.
It was one of the very first ones to be.
I love it.
Be here, but
Beautiful. And where's
yeah.
the dishwasher?
2 of them, left and right.
Great.
So again, and so when
So
I'm having help,
show us some of your beautiful dishes. I know you.
Oh.
I know you love dishes like I do.
Well,
can you show us some pretty dishes? It'd be fun. Just give everybody a little sneak peek behind the scenes at David Monn's beautiful
actually, you know,
dishes.
Alex, and I tell you when I set the apartment up, I also wanted the apartment to be that I could do a seated dinner. The doors obviously close here.
Right,
and
right.
they're
Yeah, I've seen that
swinging.
before. Right.
But that also it could be a buffet. So we could set the buffet up on the table and people walk through in and out, and it'd be also very pretty because you're great at buffets. But you know, I have these wonderful old French porcelain, which
so
we love.
pretty, so pretty.
Probably need my stool to get a little higher. You know, Alex, I've loved collecting all of these old.
Oh, is that basalt?
Old basalt
love,
teapots. So if
love.
you know, when you're coming, we're gonna have tea on all kinds of.
These are beautiful.
Pick your teapot. I actually have.
So it's Wedgwood. It's all Wedgwood.
Yeah, they're all Wedgwood.
Beautiful.
Simple gold.
Which you
simple.
always need.
We always need.
You always need a little gold.
Always need a little simple.
Beautiful.
A new set that I've actually just got because I wanted something very contemporary, but very simple. Are these just? I had these made in simple gray with a gold band.
So
very
pretty.
Not such pretty things showing here.
So pretty. Love that. David has the most beautiful house in Florida that I've been lucky enough to have dinner at.
Well,
He threw a beautiful dinner for me, and it was so much fun. So beautiful.
oh, I love these.
Yeah, these are beautiful.
octagon.
These are so pretty.
Very pretty.
So pretty.
You know, I've always felt that I didn't want things to be too formal here, too decorated. You know.
It's beautiful.
So I've kept it very, because when you're in the table, yeah, push button, push latches. Not always the.
Oh my God, lunch, my favorite sandwiches
And so
from William
I made
Pole.
I didn't make you, but I always say if you don't have the time, make sure you know where to get the right time from.
Well, you know,
William Pole.
And you know, again, you know William Pole, right? Jackie Onassis' favorite. And it was my mother's favorite, and that's who got me addicted to William Pole.
I mean,
the
this
best
is
tea sandwiches.
You need a 12-step program to get off these things.
Potato chips with the
The
dip.
chips and the watercress dip.
I think we had, did we have William Pole at Chris's wedding? I know we had William Pole somewhere else. I don't know, but anyway, we love William Pole. We can never get enough William Pole.
Chicken salad with the bacon. I mean, I could.
They're
live
on
forever
75th and Lex, and it is just the best gourmet shop.
And we hope
and it's
that
a
it never
family.
goes
Well,
out of
it's a family
business.
business, and
Yeah.
it's now another relative has come in
Yeah.
and is helping out, and it's amazing. And
Yeah.
actually, the grandmother lived in my office building.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, Bill got my brother-in-law, who's in the real estate business. Bill Rudin got her an apartment in the building, and so she lived in my office building. So I would see Mrs. Pole when her son visiting her and taking her out for a walk, and she was so cute. And I always said the best sandwiches, the best dips in the world,
You know,
and Greeks too. You know that, right?
I did not know that.
Yes.
Well, it explains.
They're
there
Greek.
you go.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all
yeah, yeah,
explains
yeah.
it
I mean, I
all.
think there's both, but there's definitely Greek blood in there. And that's why they make the tarma and all the yummy Greek things and the spanakopita. And the,
Oh, that's
yeah,
right. And I did not know. And now that makes perfect sense.
Delicious.
Huh. Wow. Well, should we have a sandwich?
Yes, let's. That I always have this theory that, you know, in life you should always make your home the most magical place because
Entirely.
there's always two options. Either you're stuck there and you can't afford to do better, so thank God you did what you did, or you have this wonderful fortune to move on.
Yeah.
And that, you know what, you can move on and do better or do something else, and that's okay too. So your home is so, when you're there, you should truly enjoy it, and you should truly really make it a place that you're comfortable and you love.
Absolutely. You know, Alex, I always come back to,
No
you know,
growling.
there is in the world
No
that we're
growling.
in, and the world is you know, I used to listen to my grandmother say, "Oh, the world's going to hell in a handbasket," and think, "Oh, she's just old." Well, I'm kind of saying it now, but I'm not so sure. But you know, it is true in that so much of the world is out of our control,
Right.
and we have to
Totally.
be in the world. It
Totally.
doesn't matter what state we are in, you know, and probably, you know, and it's probably us again, you know, not probably, it is without question why I'm so passionate about light, because our home, you know, I tell all of my clients, I tell everybody who works for me, how we feel is who we are. You know, if you have a cold, you're cold.
Right,
You know?
right.
And when you're feeling happy or you're feeling good, that's who you are. That's who you bring.
right.
And the thing that you have very little control over most of any of the things in our outside world, with the exception of our inner world. And that's why it's so important. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's 200 square feet or 2,000
Oh,
square
totally.
feet. It really matters.
Surround
Have
yourself
you-
with beauty,
have you
and
made
you
it
will
beautiful?
feel.
Better.
I say beauty soothes the soul.
Absolutely, Alex. That's why. Well, we so get that, and we want others to know that. I mean, it is, you know, when I talk about often when I was young, I lived with my sisters. My two sisters lived in, you know, for a period of their time, they lived in public housing, and I will never forget what was so horrible about it, because the windows were small and they had fluorescent lights in them. And, you know, the people, we're blessed, you know, and we really are, and I don't ever take that for granted,
agree
not
with you.
for a single
I
day.
so agree with you.
And we can make choices, but the people that can't make choices and the choices that other people make for them, especially, more importantly, with their homes, is devastating. It's so important.
And it's a place you wake up in, and you
all
know,
of
it makes you feel so different.
energizes us or it
Yes.
depresses us.
Yeah. So I love all your glasses, David.
Oh.
Beautiful collection.
Well, Alex, I like to be able to see what it is and keeping it simple. But these were just, again, touch latches, stainless steel doors.
So pretty.
Nason Moretti made these for me years ago.
Beautiful.
Just very, very simple.
Love
it was
them.
actually a very modern shape that I had. You remember Murray Moss?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, had a version of that, and I had them make me another little version. And here is the same sort of thing. And
dessert bowls.
things.
So pretty.
Yeah. And people always say to me, "I thought you don't drink." I said, "I don't. I never have." But
you're
you got
prepared.
to have to be hospitable.
Of course you do. You've got everything you need here. All the best tequila,
Ice maker.
Scotch whiskey, beautiful.
And and then
Cocktail
this is
napkins.
linens. Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful.
very simple.
Our beautiful Jane Scott napkins.
We love Jane Scott.
We love
napkins.
Jane Scott, our friend.
We
yes.
love Jane Scott.
She
napkins.
monogrammed those beautiful napkins as a
They're
present
my
to you.
favorites.
I love them.
So, and that's it.
Okay, well, that was fun. Such a fun day together. Oh my God, the best. Divine. Thank you. So fun to be
So happy to
together.
have you here.
And I think our
Love
dogs maybe will sleep well tonight.
I hope so. It's like the child that you want to give them the workout. Oh, look at them. They're going back and forth like
Zoomies. Having the time of their lives.
as they should.
Well, it
As
was
they
the
should.
best day.
So-
And the yummiest pole sandwich. It's so great being together.
Thank
And
you.
it's really, really fun.
I love you.
So-
yeah.
Mwah.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.